All right, the first question, the first thing I couldn't add it on the review, but the first thing we're going to look at is looking at how to measure the angle. I'm going to give you guys a picture, something like this as an example, and I could ask you guys for the measurement of angle AOC. It's an example. If you notice, here's A, here's O, and here's C. But O is the corner, right? So I'm just going to look at the letters A and C. I see that the number A crosses at 35 degrees. C crosses at 115. So my numbers, I'm looking at my outside numbers. For me to know the measure of the angle, just subtract those two numbers. 115 minus 35. If subtracting is a little bit hard for you, count by tens. I'm going to go here's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80. So this should be 80 degrees. Right. If we would have subtracted the numbers, it's 80 as well. So on your final, you're going to have 4 of these. If you see on my review, I just wrote this, but it says questions 1 through 4, find the measure of each angle. But I'm going to give you guys a picture of a protractor like I showed you guys. Any questions on these? No? Okay. My example number 2, questions 2 and 3, I'm going to use the same idea. So questions 2 and 3 is, if we have the angles make an X, I see my angles, they make an X. If my angles are next to each other, here, for example, I'm just going to add them up, x plus 6 plus 2x, and it's equal to 180. If the angles are next to each other, add them up and equals 180. Here, I can combine the x's. I have 3x plus 6 equals 180. Let me subtract 6. 3x equals 174. Then we can easily divide by 3. X in this case is 58. If I look at my example number 3, my angles in this case make an X. I know there's a third line in there. They make an X, but in this case, my angles are not next to each other. They're opposite from each other. So in this case, they equal each other. So 1 plus 3x equals 46. Let me subtract 1. 3x equals 45. So x must be 15. On my instructions, it says questions 5 through 8. So those are questions 5 through 8 on the final. Any questions on these? No? Then on question number 4, I'm asking you guys to classify each triangle by the angles and by the sides. I'm going to put 2 questions at once. So you have to classify by the angles and by the sides. When it looks by when I go by angles, I'm going by the biggest number. In this case, 79. 79 is less than 90, so I'm going to call this acute. When it comes to angles, give it the name of the biggest angle. In this case, is an acute angle because it's less than 90. When it comes to sides, I notice that all the sides are different, so we're going to call that scalene. If 2 sides were the same, isosceles. If all of them were equal, equilateral. Now, looking at question number 5, I have angle Q and R, which are inside the triangle, but then the 100 degrees is outside. So I'm going to add the 2 angles on the inside, 3x minus 4 plus 11x minus 8. I'm adding the 2 angles on the inside, and it's equal to the angle on the outside. Sometimes the angle on the outside has an x. I can combine the like terms. So I have 14x minus 12 is equal to 100. My minus 12, let me move it over. 14x equals 112. Divide both sides by 14. X in this case happens to be 8. And once again, you will have 2 of these on the final. Any questions on these? Then question number 6, to begin with, it asking us to name the vertex. to name the vertex. That's the first thing we have to name. The vertex is the corner, right? The point at the corner. In this case, point G. That's the vertex. But then it says we also have to name the sides. The sides are two rays that start at the vertex. So my rays are going to be GF and GH. Two rays that start at the vertex. Let me skip to question number 8. I'll come back to number 7 in a minute. So question number 8, I see that these two angles are the angles of a line, right? They're both on the same line, the entire line, and they look like almost half of a circle. So I'm just going to add them up. B plus 55, and it's equal to 180. So let me subtract 55. 180 minus 55 is 125. Now, question number 7, it says, know the difference between acute right obtuse and straight angles. So in fact, on your homework, you will have the same instructions. Know the difference between acute right obtuse and straight angles. I'm not asking anything. I'm just telling you, know the difference, because on questions 19 through 20 in the final, I'm going to ask you guys for something like, define what's an acute angle, or define what's a right, or what's an obtuse, or what's a straight angle. I'm going to ask you to define them, so make sure you know the difference between those four. Like I said, so on your homework, you will see this. It's just a reminder. You don't have to answer on the homework. So on the test, you will be asked for them. Any questions?